Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 793A, and today's date is October 16th, 2015, and the title of this episode is Petrodollar Doomed Russia and Iran to Corner the Mideast Oil Supply. Now, before we get started, I have an announcement to make. Tomorrow, Saturday, I'll be uploading an interview with Michael Snyder. He is the creator and owner of the Economic Collapse blog. He also runs the End of the American Dream website. If you're on the X22Report.com email alert system, you will get an email. If you are a subscriber to the X22 Report Spotlight channel, YouTube should send you an email. If not, you can come right over to the YouTube channel, type in X22 Report Spotlight, you'll see the video, or you can come over to the X22Report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to the right side, and you should see the video right there. Let's get right into the Economic Collapse financial news. We are going to head right out to Greece and start out there. And right now, Greece is looking for more bailout money because the country is basically collapsing. The loans are not going to help. They're just a Band-Aid fix, as we've seen before. And what's very interesting is Germany said, listen, we will help you out and get you the funds you need, but we need you to do something. And I'm talking about Greece. We need you to take in more refugees. If you take in more refugees, we'll get some of these funds for you. So basically, they're blackmailing Greece into taking on these refugees, where it's a huge, huge problem in Europe. And what's very interesting about this is that Turkey and the United States plan this to try to bring Europe into the fold, to get all these refugees over here to the United States, to prop up the system, because the more people they have in this country that are at a low level paying jobs, the corporations benefit, Obamacare then eventually benefits, and they were trying to bring Europe into the fold and hopefully get them angry enough that, yeah, we need to go to war in Syria, but the whole thing is starting to backfire right now because of Russia. And we know that whatever they're doing at this point, it's not working. I mean, FATCA is not working. Obamacare is not working. People are not believing the carbon tax because of global warming. The IMF just said, you know what, let's just go into the savings and take their money. I mean, that's one of the ideas here. Because what's happening is that this debt is unsustainable, which everyone realizes, even the central bankers, and the economy at the same time is completely falling apart. And they're trying to think of ways on how to stop this from happening. Now, it's not going to benefit the people, whatever they do. It's going to benefit the bankers because they want their money. They want the governments to be able to pay their debts. And they know if the governments can't pay their debts, there's a huge problem. So whatever they do at this point will not benefit the people whatsoever. It will only hurt the people more. All the wealth is funneling up to the central banks. Now, we understand the unemployment numbers here in the United States are completely manipulated. There's absolutely no way. There's only the unemployment rate is only 5.1%. And we realize that a lot of people are not counted. But what's very interesting is that the job openings here in the United States are continually declining. Those jobs that are open, that are accepting people for work, they're in a straight decline. And this is coming from the Labor Department, which reported on Friday. And I remember when I was working for a particular company, and we were in a hiring freeze, but we had job recs open. And they told us to bring in people and interview them, even though we couldn't take them on, to make it look like there were jobs. And this is what a lot of companies are doing. They're pretending there are job openings, but no one ever gets hired. And you see this a lot today because they want to show that, yes, their company is still out there earning a revenue, it's still functional. But when we look, we know that this whole entire system is headed in the opposite direction. We see manufacturing completely falling apart. I mean, there's no other way to say this. I mean, there is no manufacturing. We see retail, that's falling apart too. It's contracting. More and more stores are going to be closing. The Baltic Dry Index is now down to 754. That's the raw material they use to produce goods. So if people aren't buying, factories don't have to produce. They don't need the raw material. Housing, the prices of homes have leveled off. They're coming down. And what we're seeing right now is foreclosures are starting to pick up. There are 12 U.S. housing markets that are really getting hit with foreclosures. Reality Track is out there, and they're saying foreclosures rose in the third quarter from this time last year, and many states are seeing a significant increase in foreclosures. Delaware, 1 in 385 homes are in foreclosure. North Carolina, 1 in 378 homes in foreclosure. Indiana, 1 in 353. Georgia, 1 in 337. Ohio, 1 in 334. New Mexico, 1 in 322. South Carolina, 1 in 311. Illinois, 1 in every 281 homes is in foreclosure now. Maryland, 1 in every 220 homes is in foreclosure. Nevada, 1 in 194 homes. Florida, 1 in 186 homes are in foreclosure. And New Jersey is number 1. 1 in 171 homes are in foreclosure right now. And it's getting worse as time goes on, not getting better. And I don't know what story they're going to use. Of course, we're moving into the winter. They're just going to blame everything on the cold and the snow and, the sun not coming up at the right time. It's darker outside. But that's the excuse they use. Instead of looking at the economy saying, okay, we have a big problem here. But they don't want anyone to know this. And we're seeing that the global trade, it's completely collapsed. India's exports and imports have now plunged by 25%. India's exports of goods shrank by nearly a quarter in September from a year ago, falling for a 10th straight month and threatening Prime Minister Modi's goal of boosting the economic growth through manufacturing. It's not happening. Imports fell by 25.42% in September in India. It's a complete disaster. We're seeing a global recession. We're seeing manufacturing, factory production declining, imports, exports falling apart, and everyone's still pretending that everything is absolutely okay. All they're doing is pumping up the stock markets, as best they can. Some days it's better than others. Other days the market falls a little bit, but if you notice, we're not getting those huge gains anymore. They're starting to level off. Maybe, we get a plus 45, a plus 50. Next day we get a minus 200. They try to slowly bring it back up with the high frequency trading and the plunge protection team. And it is really fluctuating at this point. We know the market is completely controlled by the U.S. government central bankers. It is not a free market. We shouldn't even be looking at the market as a signal on how the economy is doing. But this is what they use. But the economy has been in collapse for a very long time. And all they're doing is covering this up, covering that up, and just trying to manipulate everything just to keep everything continually going on. And eventually, as we saw in 2008, 2001, 1929, it all comes to an end. Now, Russia is making economic deals all around the world. The United States is making war all around the world. Russia and Pakistan, they signed an agreement to construct the North-South gas pipeline. It's going to be 1,100-kilometer gas pipeline. And we can see right now, these countries in the Middle East, in Africa, South America, Russia, China coming in saying, listen, we'll help you with your infrastructure. Yeah, we'll build a rail line. We'll help you out. We'll help you extract your natural resources. We'll build schools, hospitals, no problem. We're here to make deals, economic deals, so we both benefit. What does the U.S. do? They go into a country and they say, terrorism, we need troops in there. And basically, they garrison the entire country. Now, what's happening in the Middle East is very interesting. The United States, as we know, is completely losing control. They have the people in each one of these countries rising up in Yemen, Libya, Lebanon, Iraq. They have a huge amount of problems in Syria because of Russia. And Russia strategically is now making the move to basically control the Middle East with Iran. And it looks like they're getting ready to corner the Mideast oil supply. Because if they can take control of the Middle East and the oil supply and be the superior force in this area, these countries will then shift away from the petrodollar, which we're already seeing. And this is going to be a huge problem. Remember what John Kerry said. If we don't make this deal with Iran, the dollar collapses. And it has nothing to do with nuclear. They're talking about selling the oil using the dollar. But I think Russia, Iran, and a lot of these other Middle Eastern countries, like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, they're playing both sides right now. And whatever side is the strongest, that's where they're going. And we already see that Russia is coming in, making deals, and saying, listen, when the time is right, you don't need the dollar anymore. We'll be able to use any currency we want to purchase the oil. There's no reason to use it anymore. And when these countries no longer sell their natural resources using the dollar, what happens is the other countries that are purchasing it don't need it either. And basically what happens is that the dollar comes back to the United States. We're flooded with all of these dollars. It collapses the dollar. We see hyperinflation. And this is what's occurring right now. But of course, the Fed, the central bank, all this time since 2008, they're trying to offload this to other places around the world. That's why other places around the world are seeing hyperinflation, not the U.S. But eventually, all these dollars, they're going to be coming rushing back to the United States. Because we see what Russia, the other Middle Eastern countries, Iran, we see what they're doing at this point. And they're making their move. Because you know, the winner in Syria is going to be Russia. Russia will be calling the shots. They will have full control. And this is going to be a huge problem. And this is why we're very worried about the U.S. government central bankers starting some type of war. Now, we know the United States government pushed Obamacare. Of course, Obama was pushing this very hard. Everyone went along with it. He needs about 22 million more on Obamacare or the whole thing falls apart. And we're seeing it fall apart. There's another health insurer co-op that just failed. This is Colorado Health OP, and it is shutting down, forcing 80,000 people in Colorado to find a new insurer for 2016. This is the fifth one that has collapsed since Obamacare. This system does not work. It's not a benefit to the people. It's not a benefit to companies. It's not a benefit to anyone except the insurance companies, to the government. But for everyone else, it isn't. And the whole thing is collapsing. right in front of our eyes. And as this collapse and as they can't raise revenue anymore, and as more and more people lose work, there's going to be less and less revenue coming into the government. Now, let's think about this for a second. Debt is continually rising. The payments on this debt continually rising. The programs they have in the government, the cost continually rises, and there are less people working. And all the things they tried to do to go across the world to bring in more revenue hasn't worked. We see a global economic recession right here. Global trade declining. We are headed in one direction and one direction only, and that is a collapse. And this is why I've been saying for a very long time, everyone needs to be prepared. Don't let your guard down right now just because of what the market's doing. We saw the market at all-time highs in 2008, and then in one day, the whole thing just fell apart. We saw it in 1929. They said everything was fine, everything contained. And every time they do this, this is when you need to worry. When you see the market go up like this again, this is the time to say, okay, I'm going to double down on what I need. And if you haven't started preparing, prepare now. You can go to lifereliance.com. They have bug out bags, water filtration system, pre-made foods. You can customize your order. It's very easy to do. If you've been getting food and water and supplies, continue to do this. Do not stop. Make sure you have gold. Make sure you have cash on hand, because there will be a time where you'll need the cash, because people won't understand what gold and silver is, how much it's worth. They'll just see it as, okay, it's a piece of metal. What do you want me to do? So you will need cash in the beginning. Make sure you have medicines for those who are maybe that are sick, that might have diabetes or a heart condition. You just have a little bit extra. Toiletries. Make sure you are prepared, because we see things now really are starting to fall apart. They're accelerating. It's not getting better. It doesn't matter what the market's doing. That's all fake. We're looking at the real things here. And the real things are telling us we're headed towards a collapse. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.